Well, I would say that it was seemingly relatively normal middle class life. I really didn't feel like in retrospect, that I fit in. I always felt like I was kind of different. Um, Very creative, very artistic, very sensitive, caring, and I really stuffed all that down unknowingly and put on a really good show of being strong and capable and following the rules and being conformist and built a business, coaching business over many years and working in corporate America and working with executives. And I did really well, was an author, adopting two kids, married for 22 years. Um, but I was increasingly feeling empty. And I remember moments of like, I know that there is love, more love in this life. There is more love in me. I was living a conventional life on the surface, but internally, my thoughts were very different about the world and society. Even as a young age, I'm like thinking, why are we doing what we're doing to the environment? Why are we having to have GNP and growth? I was a business economics major, and the whole idea of like we have to have sustained growth. And I'm like, wait a minute, that's like an oxymoron. Sustained growth. At what point is the earth going to collapse? And things like that just really bug me, and I just wanted to be with animals and be in the ocean. I spent my whole life on the ocean, but I would conform, and I did a really good job of putting on the charismatic face and was the life of the party, and everybody wanted to invite me to places, and I was knowledgeable and funny, and everybody loved me, but I was still empty. I do speeches around the country, and people would just, the ego was loving it. And I was really getting off on all of this attention and all, but I was still feeling like there was something missing. And I just didn't know what it was. I had just finished a talk at a conference, a book talk at a conference in DC, and I was feeling a lot of emotion, and it was really profound. And I found myself suddenly having tears, and for no real reason, but I was really on during this presentation that I gave, and it was a big deal. It was a big conference, and so right after my talk, I couldn't wait just to get out of the whole hotel, and I was walking along the Potomac River, and I'm feeling this presence that was really profound. And then I walked upon a statue or a sculpture of two eagles made out of shrapnel from 9/11, the Pentagon building. And I'm staring at this, and I'm just feeling overwhelmed with emotion. And I looked up, and there was two bald eagles circling directly over my head. And I was just like, it was eagles have always had a lot of meaning to me. And so that was like sort of the beginnings. And I was feeling rumblings. I didn't know what it was, just sort of like the rumblings before the earthquake. So the next day, I'm on the plane, and I'm reflecting on my life of trauma, basically. And then it just all came crumbling down on me. And then I just closed my eyes in the packed plane. I'm looking out the window, and I said, God, I allow you in. And then suddenly light came shooting down through me. And suddenly it was just waves of joy and bliss. And I just was washed of every possible negative emotion, fear, um, suddenly just this unbelievable sense of love and oneness and understanding how everything is connected, and just bliss, sheer bliss. At first I was crying, and then I'm trying to hide that on the plane, and then I'm like hysterical, thinking, oh my God, it was all within me. I was in this state for 5 months straight. I didn't really need to sleep. I had just abundance of energy. I felt guided by God, manifestation. Everything happened just, I was just ecstatic. My body completely changed. I looked like I was 10 years younger. Just the feeling of like when I would look at people, they would look at me and someone would even comment and say, you know, what, especially people I knew, like, what's happened to you? You look like fantastic. And because so much weight had been just released and burned through by this. Birds would come to me, animals would come to me. The energy was so strong. I would walk by my car and the alarm would go off and lights would flicker, and it was wild until it wasn't. Yeah, the most challenging aspect, it's hard to pick one because there's just so many. I went from being basically an agnostic, non-practicing anybody who had no preparation and purification for this kind of infusion of Shakti. Suddenly I realized, oh, that was just a preview on top of the mountain. And now I'm in the valley of the shadow of the darkness. And I had to climb my way back up by purifying and examining and healing everything from emotional abandonment as a kid to all of the negative energy that was stored in these compromised areas in my broken body, and every day thinking, I don't know if I can do this anymore. The physical pain and the pressure of the healing process by Kundalini was just unbearable. I would say in the top 10 or 5 was the suddenly the complete disillusion of everything that I thought was true in my life. The people that I was friends with, I had a huge social network of people and had all these friends, and I realized none of them were really true friends. I realized how much the matrix was a real thing and how we are just brainwashed by marketing and 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 consumerism and materialism and false facades, and how everything was just designed to prop up our false images. And suddenly I realized I had to get rid of all of these things, and it was just excruciatingly painful to little by little deconstruct this false self and peel away to find my true self, which I then have learned to love. Many physical symptoms. I had GI problems for years, for 2 years, extreme insomnia, not able to sleep more than 3 hours a night. The energy would just wake me up. And the Kriyas have been challenging, although I now have learned to welcome them. Kriyas being bodily jerks and sensations. For those of you that may not be familiar with it, that was freaky at first, but then I realized that it's the body's natural way of releasing trauma. Oh gosh, the other challenges is the depersonalization, the derealization, not wanting to be out in public, overstimuli, lights were too bright. You know, my brain is being rebuilt and rebooted, and I felt like maybe 20% of my CPU, my executive functioning, my ability to process and handle, administrative tasks and stuff like that was just shot. And I was really compromised, and I just wanted to hide. And it got to the point where I pretty much had to stop my coaching business. I mean, I did, and devote my everything. And I put, all my money into this, spent a fortune on masters, healers, teachers, gurus, only to discover that the true guru really is from within. Um, Reading voraciously all these accounts of people and read all the books, but ultimately, I just felt alone. And that was probably the hardest part. And here I am 8 years later, amazed that I am still alive. I'd say the most rewarding thing has been that despite such a prolonged period of true darkness and depression and anxiety and all of these symptoms, there were true moments of clarity, increasingly true moments of clarity, love, bliss, trust, and surrender. I've been developing siddhas, and so I was receiving increasingly downloads, what I refer to them as just this streams of knowledge and clarity about how the world works, how life works, images of how it all fits together in this divine, perfectly orchestrated visual coming down through my brain. And so those moments have been just so reassuring and like, oh wow, this really is worth it. And then relationally, the few people that I am able to relate to who are also going through this, thank God for Kate. It just wildly gratifying to be able to be as vulnerable and honest and open and trusting of um, of another person and of source, of divine, and just knowing in my bones that we are divinely animated if we just allow the beauty of divine energy to flow through us. What I'm looking forward to most in the future is the continued evolution of this very long process and the gifts, the many gifts that are unfolding, granted, interspersed with moments of hell, but it's those moments of beauty and appreciation and just like profound gratitude for a carrot that I'm cooking and just like, oh, that's so beautiful, the color. And I mean, to really feel it in my body versus it just being a source of calories or, uh, and so I'm looking forward to that unfolding and strengthening of just gratitude. It just feels so good. And plus the um, expression of my true self versus being the talking head that I've been in the past. To be able to talk from my heart, to speak my truth and not give a shit about what anybody else thinks, and to know that this is what all that matters. This is my God-given gift, and I don't have to mask it or put lipstick on it or whatever. It can be just as messy as I want to be, and knowing, trusting, because from experience that people are going to recognize that and see that truth and say, wow, this guy's authentic. He's not all polished up. He's just real. And just I look forward to being real. I need support most from other like spirited people. Just being able to talk about this stuff because I've become so masterful, had to be, of hiding it, masking it, or sort of downplaying the symptoms and pretending everything's okay. Because when we're going through this process, we look okay. In fact, we probably look great. The help doesn't really come with more content, more advice, more practices or techniques. More so than that is to be able to just convene with others that are going through the same thing and to be able to support them, because that's how we support ourselves, is to support others. when we feel impoverished, we give. Yeah, I was kind of
Yeah,
leading
no.
up to. And so the When Lightning Strikes community, what I just absolutely love about it is that it's not espousing any particular modality or tradition. It embraces all and all kinds of awakenings. And there's as many different kinds of awakenings as there are people. And we're just recognizing and accepting the diversity of it all and creating a safe place where people can, even if they're just watching others share without necessarily contributing. I just saw a bald eagle.
Get out.
Yep.
Amazing.
So I was distracted by the bald eagle. I can think of worse distractions. Yeah, and so it seems, so simple to hold space. We hear about that term, holding space for someone else, and it took a while for me to really understand that. But wait a minute, we're not doing anything. We got to do something about this. We've got to help and fix and make better. But I've learned, if there's one thing I've learned on this path, it is to just accept what is and not feel like everything's broken and everything has to be fixed, and just to validate myself and to do that with others, and to just simply make sure others are heard and can hear each other. It is hugely healing, perhaps more healing than any other modality that we've explored. What can I offer the community other than my bare self and my authenticity? And I'm an open book, and I just want to reassure people that are going through the various stages and phases and aches and pains and all, that it's normal. It's actually part of the most beautiful process a human being could ever be gifted with. And if I can somehow emanate that faith and trust and support, I die a happy guy.
That was so good. That's so good. Oh, you're good.
That's all I'm good. That's all I'm good for.